The opening will be provided by Councilmember Perry Oaks, and then he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. Good evening, and thanks for being here. This month, Memorial Day is in a little over a week, 10 days or so, and we celebrate those who've passed for over the years. We celebrate the men and women who serve in uniform. I remember the freedom. I think of the freedoms we have in our nation. And my father, we were talking over the weekend, and I remember once back in the 1980, I did it twice. My wife did it once when we were first married. We took the troop train. This was back when there was still the Berlin Wall in East Germany. We took the troop train from Frankfurt up to Berlin. And it's an overnight train. You get on, you can't open the windows, you can't look at the East German countryside. And there were various stops where the East German troops would get on the troop train and they'd walk through. And it was sort of scary and cool. But my dad told me about a time when he took a friend of his. They went up there, and his friend's girlfriend came, and she was from Cuba. And it was the most terrifying event in her lifetime, that when those East German troops got on the train checking passports, they knew they were after her because she was from Cuba. And they got to East Berlin, they got to West Berlin, and she never left the hotel the entire 3 days they were there because she was so afraid that she was going to be taken and put back behind into what was, the Iron Curtain. We have freedoms here in this nation that we take for granted. And there's a lot of discourse out there that I think we listen to and we get caught up in. There's a lot of groupthink. My wife reminded me of a saying by Aristotle that it's the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. As you listen to what's going on in this nation with political rhetoric and discourse, or even in our neighborhoods, you don't have to accept everything. But also remember the freedoms which we have and the many people have fought and died for over the years. So I'll offer a prayer and then we'll Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful this day for the many blessings which we have and the opportunity to be here for City Council meeting this evening. We are thankful for the freedoms which we have in this wonderful nation and pray that our leaders and representatives might be able to continue to strive to keep those for us, and that our residents of our city and our great nation will be able to have better discourse. We pray that we'll be able to have a productive meeting this evening and appreciate those who are in attendance, and we say these things in Jesus' name, amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Oaks. That was fantastic. I will now turn the time over to Councilmember John Adams for the presentation of the public comment first, just a second. We don't have anyone signed up to speak for public comment, so we'll close public comment. I will now turn the time over to Councilmember Adams, who works for the Kaysville City Youth Council.
Yes, the Kaysville Youth City Council, Youth City Kaysville Council. That's not the right way to say it. They are in attendance and awesome. I just have the pleasure of working with the Youth City Council, and it looks like there's a couple parents here. I just want to say how incredible your kids are. One story that comes to mind, we met up with the governor, and they told some jokes, which was one year was kind of funny. They told him a couple jokes that he ended up then telling to a giant, league of cities and towns. but last year they asked him some questions that just blew my mind, asking him like how he governs and different things that just, it was incredible. And so they're so smart and talented, and I enjoy working with them. And let's give out these awards. A lot of these kids seem to have senioritis because we have 2 of our, 11 here. So I'll just read out the names of the ones that aren't here, so at least they get recognized. And then we'll do like a real, like loud for the 2 that are here. And then if we could have everybody in U City Council come up, we're going to take a picture, and your families come up, we'll take a picture with your awards. So that being said, we had Grace Maybe, who was on the council from 2020 to 2023. Grace isn't here, but we appreciated her. She's a silent but deadly voice. Kay Sisney from 2020 to 2024. Michaela Heath was on from 2020 to 2024. Let's see, Maddie Miller from 2022 to 2024. Mia Schimmer from 2022 to 2024. Leila Kimmel, same thing. Jane Weston, 23 to 24. Caden West from 23 to 24, and Morgan Becker from 23 to 24, and she's did our new logo design for the U City Council, which is pretty cool. Now, the 2 that are here, everybody give a loud round of applause to Kate Miller. Stay up here, stay up here. Not to be overshadowed by Reagan Larson. You guys are awesome. Hopefully this gives you scholarships and all kinds of cool stuff. We're gonna miss it. Come on up, family, and you, the rest of you youth council, so we don't look like you're just the 20 of us. Can we fit in? Get us all? Squeeze in? Squeeze a little. Yeah, come on, Mom. Come on, in. Yeah, okay. Yeah. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. Tell her she's a slacker, or she is a choir concert.
We want to extend a special thanks to Linda Francis and as their advisor.
Yes.
Honestly, Linda, you're fantastic. We so appreciate you, the time that you donate. And to Councilmember Adams as their advisor from the city side. It's a great opportunity for our youth city council members to be able to serve. They're at the Capitol at least once a year. They help with the Scarecrow Festival at the USG Botanical Gardens. They have wonderful initiatives and ideas for the city. They help with communication. They pass out flyers. They help us with Kaysville Gives. There's just so many things that the wonderful city council does. So thank you all. Oh, yeah, Kaysville Gives, the fire truck, fill the fire truck as well. So thank you. Okay, conflicts of interest. Anything with anyone? No? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Okie dokie. Would someone like to make a motion regarding the consent items?
I do want to take item E off the consent.
Okay, we have a motion to remove item E. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Adams.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent items A through D.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's circle back to consent item 5E.
Just some questions.
Okay?
I don't think this was a mistake, actually, in the ordinance or whatever in the personnel policy thing. And let me tell you why I don't think it was. Because you have people who are not hourly. And so a lot of times those people are asked to work at different times for longer portions of the day. And they like to save that comp time so that they can take, like you may have somebody plowing snow for hours and hours and hours, or you may have the 4th of July or something like that, where they build up a lot of time. And since they are hourly, they are able to take that at time and a half or compensation at time and a half because it's overtime. Where, like I know that you said the others are salaried and that, but I think that was kind of the whole reason that was set up that way. I mean, that's my impression, that it was set up that way such that because we do ask a lot of our hourly people at times to work multiple hours past their 40 hours. And to do that, we give them a little compensation at time and a half. And they have the choice, I believe. You can either take it as pay or you can take it as leave. And so I think that 300 hours is a lot of hours. Or what was the numbers? It was 320 hours is a lot of hours. And I think they were allowed to do that to the 400 just because of their jobs and their descriptions and what they do. You may have people like doing burials on Saturdays, and you have, like I said, 4th of July. So you have a lot of different employees who like to build up that comp time. And even the police officers probably like to do that for certain events, and then they like to take extra time off during the year after they've done that. So I think it was set up correctly because, I mean, obviously the people who don't have time and a half is because they're paid very usually better than the hourly employees are. So that was just my comment. So now, Nick, you tell me if I'm...
Well, I just want to be clear, this doesn't do anything to comp time. Hourly employees would still be allowed to bank that 80 hours, and they could still have all those options. Salaried employees cannot, Fair Labor Standard Act did not allow a salaried employee to have that compensation time. So what this does is what we're trying to do at least, and I think this is totally a policy decision the council can make, is to put those salaried employees just in the same position that an hourly employee would be. So the hourly employee can accrue up to 320 hours plus the 80 hours of comp time. A salaried employee is capped at that 320. They can't get any comp time. They can't do any of that. So this would allow them to go to that same.
And I agree. I know that the hourly employees, and I think it's an extra benefit that they have been giving to get to the 400 to allow them to bank those hours so that they can use them at their discretion, when I think salaried employees, they don't, a lot of times they're not asked. And I know when we have a salaried employee that does something above and beyond, I know that they've been given bonuses for those times or whatever. So there's other things that they do get that I don't know that we give to our hourly. So I looked at it as I actually thought the personnel policy was probably correct.
And that's fine. I just want to be clear that we're not lowering.
No, I understand that. You're not lowering the hourly.
Right.
No.
Yeah,
What
we're
you're
not
trying to
taking
do,
anything away from
you're trying to increase it. And I think talking to some of the other cities, and I don't know, and I'd like to know, I mean, it seems like 320 and 400 is pretty high to bank anyway. I mean, the 400 I get, because if you're an hourly employee and you work 2 weeks straight during the 4th of July and you want to take a little more time off, you should be able to bank that, or you should get paid for it. I get it. And that's a benefit to them. That's an extra benefit they get as an hourly employee. I'm not touching that. I don't want anything to do with it. I'm just trying to say is maybe that's why it's there, is because they do get something a little more than a salaried employee who wouldn't be expected to be there. Even though they may be there, wouldn't be expected to be at a burial on a Saturday. They wouldn't expect to be out cleaning up the trash after the 4th of July or getting things ready, or the police officers working the parade extra and things like that. So
That's a fair point. One of the big motivation for this was actually our police admin, because our police admin has 2 lieutenants, an assistant chief, who are salaried employees, and they're the only salaried employees outside of the department heads. So one of the motivations was the lieutenants and the assistant chief, they're there on the 4th of July, they're there anytime there's an emergency, and the hope was to, or one of the motivations, kind of the primary motivation, was to put those 3 individuals on the same level as hourly employees. When you get comp time, my understanding is you get that at an hour, 1.5 times. You can bank that at 1.5 times. So hourly employees still have some advantages as they accrue this. But again, this is a policy decision that the council can make.
What, oh, sorry. Forgive me for not knowing this, but how do you track hours on salary employees? Do they still have to clock in and whatnot, or?
We don't clock in and out typically, but we do track the vacation hours that we use.
I guess I'm saying, how would you, like, you know, and again, this is purely a question, like somebody comes and if they're salary and they get their job done, they could leave an hour early, right, or whatever, but then the next day they work an hour longer. Would that hour longer count as being banked?
No,
You know?
they would just accrue their normal vacation rate. So, you know, whatever that is, up to 10 hours per pay period, just as though they were any other employee that was
Right.
banking vacation time.
And I guess I'm just trying to figure out how are you going to be able to keep track of the additional banking of time, that additional 80 hours? Like, how do you know? Do they just submit it or something like that?
Yeah,
or?
we would just set, I mean, this is probably a question for Kim or Levi, but we would just set those certain employees to be able to accrue up to 400 hours.
And they just have to submit something like, hey, I worked on the 4th of July.
No, they don't submit anything. They just submit when so they would accrue vacation just like anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of accruing up to 320 hours and then being capped,
Right.
then they could go up to 400 hours. And then they would use that vacation time just like any employee would. So if I was to take a vacation, I would put in the system that I'd used 8 hours of vacation, and it would deduct it from my accruals just like,
Got it.
right?
Do we know approximately how much money this represents? I think 20 employees would be
I thought it was
affected. Or oh, was it 12?
I thought
Okay.
it was
it'd
only
be
12.
12
I saw
times
two.
probably 50 times, what, another 80?
I don't know, yeah.
So it'd be $48,000. I mean, roughly
Total to the,
50,000.
total.
Yeah, roughly
Yeah,
50,000.
I mean, some of those numbers are a little bit, I would argue they're a
Hard to-
little bit deceptive, because if I can bank 400 hours, I'm going to probably bank 400 hours, but I'm going to continue to use vacation. So if I can only bank 320, then I'm going to use those 80 hours of vacation throughout the year.
Yeah, I don't know that it costs.
That's what
Yeah,
I
no,
was
no, it doesn't
assuming.
cost.
It doesn't
Just-
cost
okay.
much, unless can you sell it back when you retire?
When you separate from
You separate.
employment, you
could
it's
bank
an
it.
entitlement that
Yeah.
you've
Okay,
accrued.
and most probably do, or they quit working the 10 weeks prior,
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know, either way.
So
Yeah, sure.
with-
Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, just a quick question. What prompted this amendment or changing this? Did we actually have employees here that were running into this situation? Or is this more of like best practices that other cities are doing?
So this was prompted by, we had a situation where, we've had several situations where individuals have needed extended sick leave, and we have a sick leave donation program. And those police administrators, the lieutenants, and the assistant chief, who are salaried employees, and the chief, they all felt kind of an obligation to donate to that, but then recognized that they couldn't bank as many hours, so they kind of, they didn't complain. Chief Oberg brought this up. This wasn't a complaint-driven thing, but Chief Oberg brought it up in a department head meeting and said, hey, is there some way we can put these salaried employees on a similar footing as hourly employees, at least for this accrual, which I think, as a department head, if somebody in your department gets sick and you're going to ask for sick leave donation, I think our department heads generally would lead out on that and donate. So that's why. They felt like Chief Oberg, and I agree with him, felt like we're putting this kind of obligation on department heads and on salaried employees to lead out, and then they're kind of at a disadvantage. Now, Councilmember Blackham's right. There are some advantages to being a salaried employee, and that's why this is a policy decision.
Okay, that's helpful, thanks.
Thank you.
So,
Councilmember Blackham.
so would they accrue it at time and a half, just like the regular employees?
No, they would accrue, all it is just their regular vacation accrual. So as a city employee, you're entitled to a specific amount of vacation accrual based on how long you've worked here. And all city employees right now are capped at 320. Then you can, if you're an hourly employee, you can work overtime. If you work more than 40 hours, you can choose to either get paid out as overtime, or you can bank that up to 80 hours in comp time.
Right. And
All this would do with this.
and that's what I said. I think it was actually in there for that reason. That's the reason I think it's in there. Is so that an hourly employee can bank comp time or take time and a half pay, whatever their choice is. But I think 320 hours is a lot of hours already. I don't know. I mean, I'd like more information if you want something. I'd like to know what other cities allow employees to carry 400 hours. That's a lot of hours. That's a lot of unfunded, that's a lot of time. It used to be that until it was PTO, it wasn't even close to that. But now that it's personal time off, it's, it's just, you have 320 hours you get to take off and no questions asked.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Jesus.
If I can, Mayor.
Yes.
So just to make sure that I think I understand what we're doing, but just in case. So essentially, salaried workers are not able to accrue comp time, extra time. So the way they accrued this time off is just by every whatever pay period they get X amount of hours. And we're essentially saying you had a bank account that limited you, or a credit card, whatever. A bank account that limited you to $320, and now we're saying you can accrue up to $400. We're not saying you can add any faster in any way.
Correct.
Okay, so we're going from letting them have 8 weeks to 10 weeks of accrued time off.
Yeah. I think that's right.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So then
I
am
question.
confused.
My question is just, it puts you on the spot a little bit, Jason, but what do you want? What would be your preference?
I think, again, as Nick said, this kind of was driven by trying to keep our sick leave donation program healthy. And it just to stress, I think it's clear on the dais, but this is not increasing the rate at which salaried employees accrue. It's just increasing the cap so they don't, they can carry over more, if that makes sense. I think, and I hear what's being talked about with the amount of liability potentially that this carries, but I think it's just out of the sake of making sure that we're able to keep our sick leave donation program healthy, because it is true if you look at the practice of this, the donations are occurring from the top commanders, and really I would say any department where that would happen, I think there's an expectation, frankly, of those leaders leading out before they ask other employees, hey, everyone chip in here. They're the ones that are donating. A large amount of that time, if not a very large amount of that time, is coming from those commanders and those salaried employees. But happy to go in and do some of this research. I don't think there's any urgency around doing this right now. If you'd like us to look at what other cities are doing and kind of look at some best practices. Not everybody does the PTO, so it may not be quite the same from city to city.
Well, I think a good comparison is we're the 33rd largest city in Utah. Do 5 above, 5 below, and see if they're doing PTO and what their policy is for amount, because you're trying to compare apples to apples.
Yeah, for those cities that have a sick leave donation program, if they've got PTO, that'd be a good comparator to look at. I think if they've got sick leave and vacation, and their sick leave donation program is, you can donate sick leave, that's a different story. But for PTO, yeah, we can certainly look at that. Again, I don't feel like there's any urgency to doing anything tonight. If the board wants some more, council wants some more information.
Councilmember Jackson, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say I have no problem with moving forward on this right now, doing a vote, but I'll leave it up to the council as a whole to determine if we want to wait and get more information or vote. So.
I will just comment to your example of specifically in the police both chiefs leading out. Jason and I had the opportunity to attend an awards dinner, and they absolutely lead by example. Chief Oberg said, hey, we've got these spouse awards, significant other awards, and he was the first one to talk about his spouse, and then he expected everyone else to get up and do the same thing, and so he definitely leads out by example. So, and we have had conversations about not that they're complaining, but if there's a sick leave issue and someone doesn't have enough, and they are making those lower wages, then there is that expectation within, we're all a family here to help each other, and it does fall on the leadership of the organization to supplement that, and that's kind of an unfair burden, and they do it because they are leaders. But anyway, I will be looking for a motion. Are we ready?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I will make a motion that we approve amending section 4.01, paid time off and short-term medical leave of the Kaysville Personnel Rules and Regulations.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Jackson.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Motion carries. All right, let's move to 6A, a resolution adopting the Kaysville City tentative budgets for fiscal year 2025. I'll turn the time over to Jason.
Thanks, Mayor. So, of course, the state is what requires that we the cities adopt a tentative budget by the end of May. And so there's nothing really that's changed in the tentative budget from what we've discussed in the budget work sessions over the last few months. I understand there's probably going to be questions and tweaks to the budget, I'm sure, in the coming weeks as we hear public comment and have a chance to have a public hearing at the next meeting on June 6th. In years past, sometimes this has even been a consent item just because, again, it's kind of a lot of it just meeting that deadline for the state to have a tentative budget in place with the understanding that there's likely going to be some more tweaks in this process. But we wanted to just put this on as an action item should there be any questions or comments before we proceed.
Thank you so much. Council members? Councilmember Hunt.
Gosh. Okay. For the most part, I feel okay about the budget. I know in conversations there are a few things that we still want to tweak, and I think that's fine. It's kind of procedural. I guess my thing, and I hate to try to block up any sort of procedural thing because I like to follow the rules and do what we're supposed to. But as far as this budget goes, and we've talked about this, there are parts in the budget that I just don't support, and specifically the raise for council, not because I don't think we work hard, and I understand the arguments that have been made for it, but and I can see how it could be a benefit to future council members, but I'm not on board with it. I think if we really wanted to do it, a raise to 5% below market average, like we've done with our employees over the past few years to try to get them up to there, would be more appropriate, or maybe tying it to the kind of COLA that we give to them, but not kind of what we have in this form. So I guess that's my only concern. I think everything else, we've had some good discussions and we have some good ideas on how we're going to solve some of those issues, but that's just something I want to get out there.
Okay, thank you so much. Great comments. Anyone else? Councilmember Oaks.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Hunt on council raises, and for the most part, we've done some we've done yeoman's work, has been done on this. I know Dean and Levi, the work that you've done with staff, we've had the meetings. I personally, and this is, I know we'll have another meeting coming up, and maybe we'll have an additional one. COLA and merit. I personally disagree with where we're at in the proposed budget, and we'll want more discussion on that. And there's some concerns with the power rates, with what we've had in there since I understand the necessity to raise rates, and we knew that last year when we raised them. I just think a little more discussion on how and what we want to do on that. And I do have some concern with some of the items that we potentially cut off as we've looked at other things, that areas where the city might need. So I think we're real close, and I understand that we'll approve this, but there's a couple areas that I think in the motion we'll want to maybe specifically state, so it's on the record, that areas we'll want to. Anyways, that's all I got.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Jackson?
Yep, thank you. Yeah, it's been quite the process with council and staff in the city to painstakingly go through the budget, and we've had a lot of meetings, and it's been a lot of work to get to this point. And last night I was up past midnight looking at the budget, and I'm sure I've missed some of the numbers here, but I started adding up. From the moment we started talking about this till today, I started adding up all the money that we've saved, we've been able to cut from the budget, and my figure is $444,000, and that's what we've been able to shave off in the last few months, and that's pretty significant and tremendous. I'm sure the number's probably different on your end, but so I just want to applaud the council here, and moving forward, yeah, I do have a few issues as well. As Councilmember Oaks mentioned, the merit and COLA, I kind of want to play around with that a little bit to see what would work and what would be appropriate. And then also, I noticed an increased fee for food trucks, and actually didn't like that. And so just kind of a little, I think it's a $100 fee. And I think we need to take care of our small businesses. And so I don't think I'd like that. But some of the power rates and a few things I would like to go over. And I'm looking forward to working with the council and kind of fine tuning this a little bit more. But yeah, we've done a lot of work, and yeah, that's all I have to say on that.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Blackman.
I'm the same. I think the COLA and merit still needs some work looked at, and I also believe that the power rate thing, we've already raised rates and at mid-year, and sewer rates are going up, everything's going up, and it all adds up. I mean, the sewer rate alone is $10 a month, and there are many other things. I'm sure gas has gone up, and so you can say power, gas, food, trash, everything's going up. So yeah, there's things we need to work on. We need to work on that power. We need to do that. So this is a tentative budget that we're looking at, but it's by no means is the final budget. But the bottom line is I'm just not ready to do any kind of a tax increase. And so somehow we've got to make this budget work. I don't know what we got to do, but I'm not looking to vote for a truth in taxation and raise taxes this year. I think people have already been hit enough this year that we don't need to, stick another finger in the wound. So, we'll work on it. We'll do the best we can, but there's still more to do. And just it's kind of a question, just in the personnel and expenditures for Dean, as I do my figures, looking at everything, and I know it's hard to explain to me, and we don't need to do it tonight, but as I look at it, it's a 9.12% increase just in the personnel and expenditures, and I don't know how a city can, because this is all the stuff that's funded through property taxes pretty much, and I just don't know how a city can sustain going on and on with near a 10% increase year to year to year. I don't. It's just a tough one for me to swallow. So those are things we'll look at and talk about. So it's by no means a final budget, but a tentative budget, and we'll work on it.
Good, thank you. Councilmember Adams?
Yeah, I just, I think the only thing I'll say is I disagree with my established colleague here, Councilwoman Hunt. I don't think the raise for council and mayor is enough. I look at what Layton's paying their council members and their mayor, and, you know, you could say it's not for the money, which it isn't, but also there's value there. There's value in your time. And when people ask me about running for council or running for a seat, if we're only trying to recruit the people who are going to do it and not see the value in that, I think we're missing out on a large pool of people. I think we had a fairly small pool of people that ran for council this last time around. And I believe that there is something to be said for that. I mean, you know, that's a very small amount in our overall budget. So yeah, I don't think it's enough. I remember Councilmember Lords, I think he was public about saying this. He donated his back to the city. I think that I would like to see us have a unanimous vote on the budget. And so, you know, I would pose that as an option for Councilmember Oaks and Hunt if they want to donate, you know, that raise back to the city. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, to be honest with you. And I think, if anything, it's going to increase the stock of who we get, as well as we're meeting way more than we ever did for the first 4 years. And I'm glad we are. But I think there's value in, at least when you wake up for those 5-hour budget meetings, that you think, okay, well, yeah, but you know what? Like, I'm being compensated for this. So that's how I feel. I feel the same as everybody else on wanting to kind of discuss more about the COLA and the merit. And I just want to thank all of our employees, Seth specifically. You maybe a little bit, Levi, I don't know, thank you, but thank Dean and Levi for all that they've done. It's been an incredible process so far, so grateful for that. That's it.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may also just add, I want to thank Levi and Dean as well for all the hard work, and all of you. I know this has been several months of a lot of long meetings and diving into lots of detail here and staying up late, and I know a lot of you have spent a lot of time going through these numbers. It's hard work, and it's difficult when it comes to salaries as well, and compensation is a very sensitive subject, as all budget items are, both for the taxpayer end and the employee end. And I think that's something that we'd like to spend more time on, is, you know, this year, but as we go forward too. One thing that I'd like to focus on in the coming year, coming months, is looking at our staffing needs, and something we haven't maybe done in detail in a few years is a good staffing study. Now, we've done them in the past, and I think most people know that we run pretty lean and mean, and I think we still do. And as everyone knows, I think here we haven't had any staffing requests that have been fulfilled in a few years, and really, we've kind of gone off a lot of anecdotes about how people are kind of a little bit overwhelmed in some departments, some areas, and I think that's true. But what we also need is some good data that's objective, that all of us can look at. So that's an area of focus that I'd like to take in the next few months, and just really work with the council on what those needs are, and see objectively what our needs might be. And I think as we see what's going on in other cities too, that's frankly, it's a little bit alarming to see how the rates are increasing, and I think a lot of people have talked about that issue in different cities. So I guess what I'm getting at is a lot of discussion will continue to happen, I think, on that conversation, that topic. So,
Can I just say
Jason,
one thing? I don't want to leave John like he got thrown under the bus, because I am in favor of an increase in compensation for the mayor and the council. I don't want to have him think he's taking that burden, because I am in agreement with him, because we have done so many raises over the last few years, and we have taken nothing while we have been doing that. And we are putting in so much more time than we used to.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Jackson.
Jason,
Oh, sorry.
who are you going to call on next? Mayor?
I guess you.
Oh.
I guess you're next.
I just, in Jason's comment, are you wanting to look at that for this year's budget, or are you talking about next year's budget?
yeah, for the staffing study.
For the
yeah,
staffing.
For the coming year. I know this year certainly, we've already got a tentative budget, never planned for those meeting those staffing requests. And I frankly think we need to do some more research. I do, in helping the council understand where those needs really are, because frankly, we have a lot of them, and just being able to figure out how to prioritize those needs, what they're going to cost, and how we're going to deal with those. And there's probably a lot of creative ways, and I've got a lot of ideas there. But again, this is for the coming year. So
Yeah.
I think it'll take a lot of discussion, a lot of research
Okay.
before we get to that point. But yeah, good
I just
question.
wanted to make
Thank
sure
you.
that was, and I think too, once COLA drops back to where it was for years and years at 1%, all of a sudden we have, if we consistently rise, I mean, that opens up money for those staffing positions. It seems like to me, had COLA last year been at 2% and this year been at 2%, we would have a surplus to hire employees, right? So it's almost a double-edged sword, because it's like saying to the employees, hey, I know you're having to work a little bit more, but you're receiving a cost of living increase that's higher than maybe it had been in the past. But then again, the cost of living has increased too, so that doesn't really. I see that opening, I guess, that I see if next year, if we get back to a reasonable cost of living increase, that we'll have more money for hiring employees.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, and to that point, I think all of us, or most of us, mentioned examining more closely COLA and merit, and I don't want any employees to get anxious, and I just want to be clear that we absolutely want to take care of our employees. I think the national inflation rate is at like 3.2%, and so looking at the COLA, at least for me, the ballpark of probably matching that, and not sure where I'm on the merit, but, and then in terms of the hiring freeze that we've had, we are running so lean as a city, and it's been remarkable to watch the staff really step up and to find ways to trim off the budget. But I'm starting to get a little bit concerned about having the hiring freeze continue. I just don't want to overwork and overburden some of the staff. And so I definitely am looking forward to getting more data on that. And I would love to move forward to make sure that we have good staff and what we need in every area of the city. And so I just kind of wanted to make that point clear.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mayor?
Yes,
Sorry, can I
Councilmember
say
Hunt.
something real quick? I know we're getting there. And I get kind of flustered when I have something I want to say. And so I feel like I don't always say things in the best way. And so I kind of just want to add to everything I said earlier that I absolutely respect the council for putting this on there and putting that out there. And I definitely appreciate the reasons why it's been brought up. I agree with John about, possibly helping have a greater applicant, whatever, pool of people running. And so, with everything that I said, I don't mean any disrespect to anyone on the council. And I just wanted to make that clear. I don't begrudge anyone having their opinion, I guess. And just kind of wanted to add, except Councilmember Oaks. I just wanted to add that, for me, part of it is we look at this budget every year, and like Councilmember Jackson said, we cut 444,000 or, you know, somewhere around there. And every year we're having this, and we're supposed to have these hard conversations, but this is something, you know, that I can do, you know, saying, you know, maybe we as a council will, it's something that I can personally give up as opposed to taking it from someone else. And I know that the amount is not as significant as a lot of things in the budget. A budget that's about 52 million is large, and 22,000 out of that is, you know, a drop in the bucket. But as we've talked about these staffing things, and as I've spoken with our department heads, I've been concerned. I was concerned about the staffing issues last year. We decided not to hire anyone again this year. I've become more and more concerned about that, and a few other things we're pushing off. And I just have to say that, you know, 22,000 is not a lot, but coupled with I think 78,000 we're saving by going from 4% COLA to 3.5% COLA would be enough to hire on at least some of these positions, or nearly enough. So even though it's an insignificant amount, I think coupled with some of the things that we can do, it could have a meaningful impact. But anyway, I just also, you know, always thank you so much to staff for putting this together. Thank you so much to council for having these hard conversations and for always being so open, and we've had great conversations. And I hear about some other councils where they're fighting each other, and I just am grateful that we don't have that, and that as a council we can, you know, respectfully disagree and continue to work and move forward toward, you know, what's best for Kaysville. So, all right, thanks.
Thank you so much. Anyone else? No other comments? Okay, I'll just add a couple real brief comments. First of all, appreciate the work of everyone. This has been a great discussion. Every year that I've been on council, we've had greater, deeper dives into the budget. So we totally appreciate you, Dean and Levi and Jason, for the leadership on that. I feel like, you know, as city planners, because that's basically what we are, we've been entrusted by the city to plan for the future and to anticipate what's going on and to be able to tell our residents, hey, we considered this, we considered that. And so I'm of the opinion, and I realize it might not be popular, but I think that we need to be very transparent about what things cost. You know, it's easy to say, hey, I'm not going to vote for this, and no disrespect to you, Mike, I totally get where you're coming from. But I think that where we see rising costs, we need to be transparent about that. We need to let people know, look, you know, we had to dip into fund again this year. We have been on a hiring freeze for 3 years, and it's great. We've been able to make do. But at some point in time, we've been trusted to plan for the future. And so I'd really like to see us have more of a, you know, have a personnel study done, a pay study done. I'd like to see us get in front of some of these projects that we hear about over the years. You know, we've got a project here, but we're not actually necessarily, we are saving for it to a point. But we shouldn't be surprised every year, I guess, when costs increase. And so I just feel like, perfect example, you know, I was in a church leadership position. And I told my bishop, hey, I'm not going to turn in any of these receipts. And he said, Tammy, that's not being transparent about what things are costing. You know, the next person in this position needs to know how much it costs, and our ward needs to know how much things are costing. So he said, you can write a check back for it. You can turn in your receipt and give me a check for the same amount if you want. But we need to be transparent. We need to know what it's costing to run these organizations. And I think as a city, we really need to do that. So to the point of, I totally get it on principle that we say we don't want to give ourselves any kind of a cost increase. I will tell you that we work hard for you, and I am not embarrassed to admit that. The council works hard. There are long hours. We are on multiple boards and committees. I had no idea how much would be required of me and asked of me serving in the position that I serve, and I love it. I love absolutely everything about it. I didn't have to say yes, but there is a lot of time, and for our council members, it also is a lot of time, so I hope we can kind of consider that as we're thinking about this tentative budget. Truth in taxation, you know, a couple years ago, some of you will remember, we did a 100% increase in taxes because we hadn't touched them for many years. And everyone lost, you know, including me, going, what the heck, what happened? And I really feel like it's more transparent to say, you know what, things are getting more expensive. And if we do it incrementally, then we can plan for it as a city. We can plan for it as city leaders, and as residents, we can plan for it as well. I get it, everything's increasing, you know, everything's increasing. But that is just, it's the world we live in right now. So of course we want to be fiscally responsible, and I so appreciate the insights. And our council, you guys, you have a talented group of people here here. We represent private industry, we represent business experience. To pull a team of educated, talented people like we have and put them on a normal board, it would be very expensive, and we don't do it for the money. So I'm not trying to say that we are, but there is a cost to do it. There's gas, there's costs involved, and so I stand behind my council members that want to do that, and if it fails, it fails. But I think that it's my job to be able to lead out on the things that really matter. So that being said, are we ready for a motion? Does someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve action item A, a resolution adopting Kaysville City's tentative budgets for fiscal year 2025.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Oaks.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
Okay, and Nick and Jason, you have your direction that we don't want to close this conversation. Okay, all right, good. Dean, everybody. Okay, good, just to make that clear. All right, thanks, everyone. And I should have mentioned that no one signed up to speak to that item. I forgot about that. We just kept going. Okay, so now we're going to go to work item 7A, update regarding Wasatch Integrated Waste Management District Recycling Program. And in doing this, Jason, do you want to present, or do you want me to kind of spin you up?
Go ahead, Mayor.
Okay, all right. So one of my wonderful jobs that I get to do as the mayor of Kaysville is sit on the Wasatch Integrated Waste Management Board. I'm on a committee, and I'm also a board member. The board consists of mayors from all over the county, as well as county commissioners and other elected people. And so it's our job to look at the county-wide waste program. We have a couple of things happening in our county. We have a landfill that's filling up, and so maybe 2 years ago, we had discussions about, hey, maybe we should tell the cities that they need to have a bundled recycling program. And as mayors, we said, okay, well, we don't like being told anything for sure. We'd like to be strongly encouraged to do things. And so as board members, the idea initially was that we would have this big PR campaign first, explain to people that yes, when you recycle in your trash can, it actually gets recycled. It's not just put in the landfill. There's a miscommunication out there, and maybe years ago it was different, but it is this way now. It is recycled. So we voted to approve it as a board, and then we got the feedback that, okay, well, we're going to start this program sooner than later, which definitely concerned all of us. We talked about it in our council meeting last year, I believe, and definitely in the board meeting. So Kaysville, we made a recommendation, hey, let's pass a resolution to look at the language again. We don't want a mandatory program. We would rather love some great incentives and perhaps even some consequences for not participating. Now, I will tell you that Kaysville has a 70% recycle participation rate without it being required and without it being an opt-out program. So 70% of us in Kaysville are asking for a blue can. In my house, we did it because it was cheaper than having 2 black cans. So we want to get in front of that. I just wanted to let you guys know kind of that's where we're at, and give you an opportunity to ask any questions that I can take back to the board for the June meeting.
So it's not mandatory that you have to have a second can yet, right?
No, it's not. It won't be a mandatory program. They're going to have it be an opt-out program. Now, that's at the discretion of a city. So they're leaving it up to the city. So, for example, if Kaysville said, hey, we have an opt-out program, then if someone says, I don't want the can, we can have parameters. It can be, you have to prove that you can't afford the can. Or we can just say, okay, you don't have a can. So that's something that we need to,
I keep taking a less than half-empty garbage
City.
can out to the curb every week. So I mean, maybe I'm different than her, but I would not.
Can I bank your?
That's what I'm wondering. Maybe,
Rent out your can,
maybe
Mike.
I can just charge John for the can and put it at his house. I don't know.
Right.
But I mean, since you got such a good bunch of people who do create a lot of trash and want 2 cans, that's awesome, and we got a lot of participation, but I hate mandatory stuff.
Absolutely, as do I, and you know. Go ahead, Councilmember Jeff.
Just to that point, I have a blue can, and it's very clean, and it looks nice. And it's interesting when you talk to the landfill folks, when you really dig into where our recycled waste goes, it takes a lot of fossil fuels and a lot of transportation, and sometimes we're sending our recycled waste across the ocean. And it's not as necessarily as clean as people think. But that's, I'm not necessarily an expert on that. But I definitely agree 100% that we should not have a mandate that everyone needs to have a blue can or a green can or 3 black cans or whatever. We have a lot of folks in our city that are on fixed incomes, and I think, we all should do our part to help the environment and to help recycle, but that really should be something that as a city we can incentivize people and try to make it worth their while. But I just worry about all those households that are really struggling with inflation, with the fixed incomes, to be forced to have a green can, a blue can, and a black can. So.
Got it, thank you. Anyone else?
I'll just say, I kind of like it the way it is, because we use both, and the blue can is cheaper, and we fill the blue can up, and then we don't have to have 2 black cans. So I think that our incentivized thing is
We're using it,
working.
we're doing it.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why we would need to force people to do stuff.
Okay, any other comments, or we don't need to hurry through this, but,
I got all 3 cans.
yeah, I do too. Because,
I've got 2 black cans,
I don't,
one blue, one green.
Whoa.
And I use the heck out of the green,
I-
during the
Oh, yeah,
winter
during-
months when you can put like regular trash in the.
I just throw it at my neighbors. Don't, is that public? Oh, shoot.
It's definitely public, Perry.
okay, well, thank you, council. That was just a sort of an update to that policy discussion happening at the Wasatch Board. Jason, did you have something you wanted to mention?
No,
Okay.
thanks, Mayor, great.
Okay, all right, council member reports.
Let me,
Yes,
I do,
Councilmember Oaks, I'm sorry.
so the ramp is in the budget, the tentative budget we just approved. And once it's approved, the programs will come out. But we met again last night to talk. This is our 3rd year of doing this. And just want my hats off to Cole and his department for running this program and putting it together. And what we're working hard to do, and again, as we learn, is to have criteria. So if anybody stands up, comes to a council meeting, stands up and says, why wasn't my program approved where I want it, that the criteria is there, that we're able to demonstrate and talk them through and said, you might not like the decision, but here's why. And I think the program will just get better as we go on, but hats off to Cole and his team for running that. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Hunt.
Just that yesterday was youth court's last day for this year, and so tell your kids not to commit crimes during the summer, because it might not be an option for them if they do.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just one
Councilmember
thing
Adams.
real quick, and this is just a cool story. I'm really talking to you, my friend, how government works. We had a old historic home that got torn down, and a lot of people were upset about it because it got torn down. This was a year ago-ish. And as council, we changed the policy to be such that if you're going to tear down a home that's older than a certain amount of years, you have to notify the historic committee, and then they have to sign a document saying, yes, we've done this. Well, so far we've had 2 of those situations where they've been notified, and the people that notify them are like, oh, I got to do this thing, like it's saying that I have to do this thing. They call me. This most recent one ended up being my wife's great-grandpa's house. And so we were able to go over there and take pictures and do a whole video tour of the house before they tore it down, and it was super cool. And so they just, an idea of how government can work to slow things down, even though that sucks. It was perfect for us because otherwise that house would have been torn down and we wouldn't have had those memories that we could send to her dad and stuff. So it was kind of cool.
Fantastic. It's nice to see things go right.
Work, yeah.
Yes, on occasion.
Thanks, Nick, for rewriting that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I have something to report. And as I do this, I want to make sure that it's clear. Jason and I had an opportunity to meet with Bob Stevenson, who's now the chair of the Homeless Task Force Committee, whatever it's called. I serve on that, wanted to serve so we can make sure that we know what's going to potentially happen within our community. And so Jason and I, we'd heard something that was troublesome to us, that the senior centers were again being considered as Code Blue shelters. The reason that that's a problem for Kaysville is that it's directly across the street from Kaysville Elementary School. And potentially the shelter, Code Blue shelter, the plan is, well, okay, so first, a couple things. First of all, we were told today that the task force members, regardless of how we vote, the county owns that building, and the county can make the decision to make that a Code Blue shelter. In the county's mind, what's been discussed is that the Code Blue shelter would rotate. There are 3 cities with senior centers: Bountiful, Clearfield, and Kaysville. And initially, they're saying, this is in real time, the reason it's not on the agenda is we didn't even have time to put it on there, is that the shelter would, or the Code Blue response would rotate, a couple months in Kaysville, a couple months in Clearfield, a couple months in Bountiful. Now, for many reasons, just like last time, we said that's not a good idea, that's not a safe place, it doesn't serve the unsheltered community, it's just a quick fix. And I will say that nothing has been officially decided, but I'm very disappointed, because honestly, the reason that I felt so strongly that we could say Kaysville is not the right location for all of these reasons, we work on prevention here, we have all these facilities focusing on prevention, as well as it is not close to services that we mentioned. We've had all those conversations, and the senior center is across the street from a school. So prior to the council meeting, I was assured by commissioners that this is not going to be considered here. I was assured, I felt very comfortable taking them at their word, realizing that that was going to be something that we would look elsewhere to put a permanent facility, even a temporary facility. So very, very disappointing that we heard today that it is being considered. We are strongly opposed to this. We will do everything we can to make sure that, stakeholders know. The school knows, the school district knows, the parents know. This is just not a good idea across the street from a school. Potentially, the requirement is a 17-bed requirement between October and April, if temperatures drop below 18 degrees. And so there's a chance that during Kaysville's assigned months, nobody shows up at the shelter because it's not cold enough, it's not Code Blue. It's also possible that people could show up. The county would like the task force members to get on board with a permanent plan. We've discussed this permanent plan. The location has not been determined by the county or really recommended. And so as task force members, we said we are not voting on anything until we have actual information. We're not just going to nod our heads and say, okay, yeah, you have it, because that's not how it's designed to be. At the end of the day, we will strongly, believe me, strongly oppose the council. We are all united. The city is united. Police and fire, we're all united in saying that this is not a good location so close to an elementary school. I do want to rely on our community to be able to reach out. And we thought that hopefully today we would be able to make some sense with the county. Hey, these are all the reasons that this doesn't make sense. And we, Jason, how should I summarize that conversation with Bob?
Which the conversation today?
Uh-huh.
Well, we basically said, I don't want to swear, but
Okay, right.
no. It's clear that obviously the city is united and this is not a good idea. We don't want it in Kaysville, never will, never have. And essentially the county is saying,
We're the county.
Yeah.
We own this property. I did tell Commissioner Stevenson, I said, I will never vote to support this as a task force member. And I was basically told, well, we don't actually need the task force members to support it. The county owns these buildings and we can use them, and it will be temporary, probably for 2 years while we go back to the state with a solid plan to ask the state legislature for money. Now, I'm kind of new to government. I haven't been around as long as he has for sure, but things move slowly. Like to the point that was just made, it's intentionally slow in order to get everyone involved at the table. So I can't imagine that this will be a fast process. I think that these shelters will be used for more than 2 years and very strongly oppose it. So I just wanted to let you guys know I told you there's no way in heck I would stand for it, and I won't stand for it. But at the end of the day, our council will not necessarily have the ability to say no to it. But our community can definitely be heard, and we can definitely make sure that stakeholders are involved. Now, they have said we'll do everything we can to mitigate, people wandering around, et cetera, but I just have no confidence in that actually being a successful situation at this point in time. And discussions are still happening. We suggested as a city, hey, what about our bus idea? Councilmember Blackham had a great idea. Let's put people on a bus. They have shuttles over there at the senior center. If there are only 17 people, why can't you put a couple people on each bus and rotate them around? And I was told that that was inhumane and that was a very stupid idea. So we also said, hey, there's another location that we're aware of. Could it be used as a temporary? It's a very large location, facility, but if it truly is temporary, at least if people don't want to leave the location when they're locked out during the day, then they would have a place to go that won't be loitering around the city. And we were told that, I don't know, did they actually respond to that? I'm not sure that was...
I continue to think that we haven't explored that idea
Yeah.
enough. I think there should be an exhaustive approach to look at every other alternative before any facilities are considered.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think there's been a great response to that, other than they say Salt Lake tried it once and it didn't work out, but as to exactly why, don't
Right.
know.
And you're talking about the bus situation.
The bus situation.
So we were told at our task force meeting that all options want to be considered. And so I said, why, Jason and I, we said, well, what's wrong with the bus idea? And we were just told, oh, people could be sick. It's just, we just don't think that's a good idea. So what?
Could be sick because they're, the
Because
bus
they're
isn't
in
going to
such
be
close
moving.
Well, they're in
Oh,
such close proximity to one another.
I see.
And at the senior centers, there is more space. There's more floor space, especially assuming that it will be 17 or less people initially. That's what the numbers are. And they said there's a good chance that no one will actually even need to use it. I'm not confident that that's the case. So we want to let everyone know, not overly alarm people. We're still having discussions. We're still going to use every bit of political will and pressure that we can to make sure that they realize why this is not a good location, being so close to an elementary school. Any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the elementary school, it's the actual seniors, like the people that we're trying to protect the most from getting sick. You talk about no bus, but you want to bring sickness into an area where the most vulnerable. I think it's just bizarre. I would say, just if anybody's listening, rally the troops to go to county meetings, because
Yes.
rally the troops to go to a county meeting and make your voice heard there, because we agree with everything. And I think that's what you're saying, Mayor, but
Not doing it. We agree that it is
but
not.
let's get them to the county meetings and voice your opinion, because obviously they're the ones that are going to make the decision. Sorry, Nate, I interrupted you.
Go
No,
ahead.
I appreciate what you said, John, because I'm really concerned about our senior centers and the seniors. I've been in government for I feel like quite a long time, feels like a lifetime here. And watching this entire process from the very beginning, this has been a half-baked process from the very beginning. There's been a complete lack of leadership at the county. And as far as I'm aware, I think we are the only city to come up with a good suggestion, and that was Councilmember Blackham that came up with that.
Apparently buses are inhumane. Apparently Canada's inhumane in how they handle the cold,
Yeah.
and they figured it out. They make those buses specifically. I guess traveling across the country in a bus is inhumane. So
Yeah, the county
I don't
shot
get
that
it.
down.
It's a real good answer, especially for a temporary facility. Because I'm trying to figure out how you're going to put 17 beds in one of these. Old
Apparently,
folks'
the
homes.
county has about 60 cots.
Okay,
that they
60
can-
cots or whatever, but they're going to be there for 2 months. Are you going to kick the
Yes.
other people out of them for 2 months, so the people are not going to get to go to the senior centers for 2
No,
months?
in their ideal world, the Kaysville has Meals on Wheels, so they could feed them a meal. They could allow them to come in during the night when it's cold. And I know this sounds very callous and cold to say, we don't care. We do care about people. And then during the day, they would lock them out unless it's 18 degrees or colder during the day, in which case they could stay at the facility. And then, I don't know where the seniors would go at that point. So we asked some questions. We said, well, what about policing? And the suggestion was, and I don't want to disrespect anyone, but it was, oh, well, you know what, we'll hire a sheriff's deputy to patrol the school and make sure everyone's safe. And then we said, well, how can you make people leave? And the answer was, yeah, we'll just kick them out of our facility. They can't loiter on our property. I said, well, where are they going to go? Across the street to the elementary school? And the response was, well, we could give them a sack lunch. I bet they'd get on the shuttle and go back to their point of origin for a sack lunch. So, not good. And I'm not smiling. Honestly, I'm furious about this. We are all furious about this. So, just so you know. Go ahead,
And I have a few more things to say as well. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're the only city that actually thought outside of the box and came up with another plan. whether it's a good plan or viable. We came up with the plan there's probably other countless plans out there. Our mayor, you've taken it upon yourself to go to other homeless shelters by yourself. You have gone all over the state talking to folks. When we ask specifics to the county, we're not given data, we're not given specifics, everything's half-baked, and just a complete lack of leadership, and I'm extremely disappointed. And I would like all the cities involved for the residents to go and make their voices heard to the county commission. Because obviously there's a task force, but our commissioners flat out said that it doesn't matter at the end of the day. They call all the shots, they make all the decisions, and I'm really disappointed in that. And this doesn't have anything to do with not being Christ-like, because I think what ultimately will help folks that are homeless is a good, well-thought-out plan with nonprofit involvement, government involvement, the public. There is a warming shelter up in Logan. It's fantastic. I toured that shelter a few months ago, and they have Utah State students that bring in meals for folks. They have a lot of cots. They have professional people sleep on cots that have had unfortunate life circumstances, that have full-time jobs. They have other folks that have mental illnesses, and it all works, and they have a director, and they have a lot of buy-in from the community. And I asked our county commission, all of them, have you been up to this warming shelter? None of them have, yet they're coming up with these half-baked plans. And when you have folks that spend the night in a facility, they have a lot of stuff with them. And like this warming shelter that I went to, they're not going to be able to take all their stuff. You can't move cots and move dividers between the cots and all the stuff every day to let seniors come in. And so this is just not a good plan, and I am so disappointed. And, like I said, I've been involved in government for quite a long time, and this is just absolutely the wrong way to handle this entire situation. So.
All right, thank you. So more to come once official, once we hear what they really plan to do, it's too late. So that's why we're getting in front of this and we're telling you. I asked, okay, what's the runtime? When, obviously, you pretty much want to do this. And we were told 10 weeks?
Right, the state mandate is that they have a plan submitted by August, I think it was.
Which identifies a Code Blue shelter. And the shelter would open this October and be open October through April. So, anyway, so we do encourage you to reach out. We were told that it was the task force. I mean, I asked a bunch of people who actually is a deciding body, but apparently the bill consists of three things. I'll just say this really quickly. A Code Blue shelter response, a winter overflow response, and then a permanent supportive housing response. And so the bill's written so that it is pretty confusing. I was told multiple times the task force, and you guys heard this from Commissioner Kamalu, the task force makes a decision, not the county. And so I'm totally willing to get mayors on board, and we were told today, no, actually the Code Blue, it's required, it's to save lives, and the county can decide to do it because the county owns that building, so. Thank
Mayor,
you.
a couple of things that were kind of enlightening to me that we heard this afternoon regarding the background and the scope of this. So first of all, it was my understanding, and maybe for up until now, the plan for Code Blue Days has been vouchers that would be handed out to people that they could go and use in a hotel somewhere in the county. And so one of the questions that I asked was, why is this changing now? And the answer was because there's no more money funding for the vouchers. So they're looking for something that they can do that doesn't cost anything. And since they own these shelters, that was their plan. So it's kind of enlightening to me. The other point was just in terms of scope. The state requires, based on our numbers, that the county provides up to 16 beds, 16 beds, although it sounds like in the past, the vouchers, they've been handing out around 8 to 10 on the Code Blue Days throughout the county. So that's their estimation, that if they open up these senior centers, that they'll get maybe 8 to 10 individuals a night during those Code Blue nights, and that they would go around, pick them up in some kind of Again, this is ongoing talk and discussion, so nothing's finalized, but it sounds like they would be picking them up in like an airport shuttle or something like that, the 8 to 10 individuals, bringing them into the warming center for the night, and then shipping them out back to where they pick them up the next morning. But again, it's just in terms of background scope, I think that's what we're looking at. Not that it makes it any better, but just so it's clear.
Right, thank you for clarifying that. And we really don't know what the numbers are. The point in time count said 16, you know, I think I said 17. But,
So the hotel voucher, there's
well,
no way it's going to equal the cost it's going to be to
the county's,
clean up the county building after and put the cots and.
well, they've told us that there are only certain
Staff member has to be there to
well,
make sure.
only
that
certain
they're-
hotels will allow vouchers to be used. And so that's really the problem, because these hotel rooms,
expensive.
they're abused when people go to these hotel rooms. And so, so hotels are, you know, not wanting to do it. So anyway, just wanted to give that immediate update to everybody. Okay. Anything, council member, or city council, or city manager, do you have anything to report?
Mayor, just a couple of calendar items. I wanted to make the whole council aware of a meeting that we have with the school district on Tuesday night. This is regarding the community reinvestment area that we're trying to get funding for, so just to revitalize, reinvest in the downtown area. This is the funding that would bring in about $5 million to the city to reinvest into the downtown area. So this has to go before the school board. So there is a workshop that is scheduled for next Tuesday at 5 p.m. at the school district offices in Farmington. I'll send you more details in an email tomorrow. But whoever would like to come to that meeting, you're certainly welcome to, not required. And then eventually this will go to the county for approval, the CRA funding. So we're optimistic that that will happen and be a real big shot in the arm to help us with our downtown area. And then last, just to clarify regarding the budget, we have one more budget workshop planned, and that's for Wednesday, June 12th at 4 p.m. And so that'll give us a few weeks here to hear public comment on the budget and to get some more sales tax data that'll be coming in the next few weeks as well, and then revisit with the council on all these different items that we've been talking about that we need to fine tune. So I'll send you an email on that as well, but June 12th at 4 p.m. is the plan. That's all.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, would someone like to make a motion to go into a closed session?
I'll make a motion that we move into a closed session.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Sure.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you, residents and people in the audience. Uh-huh. I think so, right? Okay. Okay. You should. Yeah. Do you think this is interesting? Really? Okay, awesome.
The new mayor pro tem.
Oh, really? Oh, sweet. Okay. Awesome. Awesome.